What's going on, everybody? Continuing this new series that I'm working on. Today we're looking at 1956 Rodan, the first film of this series to be done in color, and it's a beautiful looking movie to look at. The quick and short synopsis being that this is about a radiated pterodon monster that gets woken from its slumber and wreaks some havoc. But if you did not know that going into this movie, if you did not see the trailers for it or read anything about it back in 1956, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this movie was actually about something entirely different. This does one of my favorite bait and switch transitions that I ever remember seeing in a movie. And I knew what Rodan was about, and I still loved the switch up. So initially, this movie deals with a group of miners that are being attacked by these giant insect creature things called Mega Neuron. And first of all, looking at this now with adult eyes, I mean, it's clear that these things are people in suits and stuff like that and props, but the sound effects that they use when these creatures are kind of in your face, it's a very frenzied sound. It's creepy, it's unnerving, and it really adds to the terror to what's going on screen. First of all, already being in a mine, it's kind of claustrophobic. It's dark, it's wet, it's all that stuff. So that and that sound that comes with the Mega Neuro when they attack people is pretty unsettling. Also, they are not giant kaiju. I mean, they're giant insects, but like they're a little bigger than men, right? So like the attacks on man is a little more gruesome than just being stomped on. Like these things are really leaving behind sliced and diced corpses behind. It wouldn't totally surprise me if a regular casual moviegoer in 1956 thought for a second he was just watching a movie about these weird giant insects attacking these miners, because it was actually done well enough and intense enough that you kind of felt like you were getting your money's worth out of that. And then they pulled a switch, right? And I really like the way they do it with this movie, because you follow one character who suffers amnesia and completely doesn't remember anything that had happened prior to him being found. So it doesn't, his memory doesn't get triggered until he sees a bird's nest in his room, and the eggs begin to crack, and that brings him right back to when it just jogs his memory, and it brings him right back to when he's being chased by these Mega Neuron, and he stumbles into these huge monstrous eggs, and they begin to hatch, and it's voila, these, a baby Rodan who is just picking off these Mega Neuron like nothing, like just little mealworms. And these things were so intense and scary for the humans, and this baby infant monster is just eating them like they're absolutely nothing. What really makes this unique compared to the rest of the other kaiju movies is we get this realization with the main character, literally at the same time. As it dawns on him, it's new information to us, and I really like that. So I mentioned the sound effects with the Mega Neuron, and I'll talk more about the sound effects in a little bit, but I also just want to mention and give a spotlight to the soundtrack. Akira Ifukube, of course, does this thing. He never disappoints, but the main track for Rodan in this movie is definitely something out of a horror movie. His theme brings a combined sense of dread and doom with this regal, powerful presence. It's really just something absolutely incredible to hear. And for the sound effects, again, this movie looks great for a 1956 movie, but I think where it really shines is how good it sounds. And Toho did a wonderful job at portraying Rodan, not only as a living, breathing, colossal monster, but when he flies, you really believe that he's hitting like these supersonic speeds, and it really sinks in that if Rodan was like a real creature, you really have no chance to escape something like him. I mean, at least Godzilla is slow and kind of lumbering. I mean, don't get me wrong, Godzilla would be awful, right, for the world with all the radioactivity and just the sheer malice. But Rodan, you have no warning. He'll just be passing through and your whole city is just flowing with the wind. So after a few aerial chase scenes and Rodan attacking a city, the next twist is that there's not just one Rodan, there's actually two, which pretty much puts the military their backs against the wall. I mean, they can't even really lock down one Rodan. What are they going to do with two of them? But they do ultimately hatch up a plan to attack the Rodans where they're nesting inside the volcano. And as a side note, just something that I always think about when you see a movie, whether it's a monster movie or creature movie, and the creature that is the subject of the film, you see it hatch. I mean, these Rodans, they had to be days or weeks old. It makes everything sadder to me when you have something that's like kind of like in an infantile stage that doesn't really get to live its life. In Godzilla's case, right, we don't really get that impression. The impression is that Godzilla was alive for centuries, if not even longer, right? I mean, was this Godzilla something that literally survived since the prehistoric age, or was there like a species or at least a family or clan of this Godzilla species that survived? But we don't really get that answer. With Rodan, we literally see him hatch, or they hatch, I should say. And that's pretty much the last point I want to bring up, is these two Rodans, when they do get defeated and the volcano is made to blow up and erupt with them kind of in it, instead of going on to survive on their own, they choose to perish together. It's why Rodan was nicknamed the Samurai of the Skies. But seeing it unfold in the movie, even a movie back in 1956, they did it in a way that it felt very tragic and agonizing. The way, I mean, it looks like they die from asphyxiation, and they're just kind of, they go up to like fly, but then it's like they just go limp and fall right back down to earth, and they're flapping their wings, but they're not actually getting up. I mean, you kind of just get the feeling that they are choking on all the smoke and everything, and that's how it ends for them. And then they finally, their dead bodies finally go up in flames, and you leave it to Toho Studios to keep giving you, these encounters with these monsters that have very kind of human-like emotions or characteristics, whether it be anger and resentment or companionship. But seeing the way these two Rodans die together, it reminds me of something that you could see as an ending in a Game of Thrones show or a George R.R. Martin book. It just kind of feels very deflating, even though I guess it's supposed to be a happy ending because they stop the humans live and they stop the threat. But anyway, guys, this is how I feel and what I take away from Rodan 1956. Let me know your thoughts. Peace.